better daily, where we work hard in our minds, bodies, and our spirits to become 1% better every single day. Download the app and join our Betterment family at betterdaily.live to catch the video version of these podcasts. Here's your host and my dad, Alex Van Houten.
What's up, Betterment family? This is Alex Van Houten in Better Daily Live. Happy Tuesday. It's Nutrition Tip Tuesday, and today we're going to cover resistant starches. So I'm very excited about this topic. Before I get there, happy day 3 of the Faithful 40 Challenge. You guys are rocking it. We have started strong, as the mindset yesterday told us to, and well, here we are, crushing it. So I'm really looking forward to seeing your posts for today. I've enjoyed the encouragement and the commitment from everybody who's already posted thus far. I've gotten after a few people who registered and I didn't see or hear from them in the last 48 hours. And I'm like, dude, you have 40 days. Let's make this happen. Or dudette. Not to imply that those who didn't follow through were entirely male. So anyway, that said, I did want to shout out to a special participant in the Faithful 40 Challenge. Yesterday, we shouted out to Scott. Good morning, Scott. Good to see you, brother. Fist bump to you too, man. And is that a fist bump or is that a punch? I've read it both ways. It's emoji for those of you who can't see. Anyway, I'd like to hear your thoughts. Is it a fist bump or a punch? Because I've been like, hiya, hiya. You know, like, hiya, I'm in this with you, hiya. Or like fist bump. Psh. What do you think? What do you read it as? Anyway, I want to shout out to Janet. Janet in the Faithful 40 Challenge. She says that her big thing over the next 40 days is she always likes to lose about 10 pounds for the summer. I don't know if that means like you are eternally in the process of losing 10 pounds. I don't mean that in a bad way. I had a client once who used to joke that her goal for personal training was to get within one stomach bug of her goal weight. That's what I was like, what's your goal? She's like, ideally, I'd like to stick around one stomach bug away from my goal weight. I think that's realistic. So anyway, Janet says she's losing 10 pounds before the summer and that she has some big goals over the next 40 days. Spiritually speaking, professionally speaking, physically speaking, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Janet, but aren't you working on a triathlon as well? Is that something you're training for? I remember you saying you were swimming as well as running and lifting right now. So big goals for Janet. If you guys would give her a shout out, encourage her in her goals. She is a very consistent and powerful force in the world, and I appreciate being connected to you, Janet. So, resistant starches. Now, this might seem out of left field, but resistant starches, if you know what they are and you use them well, resistant starches can be a really helpful part of maintaining good gut health, and understanding resistant starches also gives us a window into what's worth knowing about carbohydrates. So, starches are carbohydrates. Starches are carbohydrates. They're just very, very long chain carbohydrates. And I'm not going to reiterate a lot of this here, but I've said this before in Better Daily. Carbs aren't bad for you. Now, here in the Summer Shred, there are some of you who might be reducing your carbohydrate intake or being really mindful about the types of carbohydrates that you're eating in order to accelerate fat loss, maybe reduce some cravings, increase your metabolic flexibility. All those are great reasons to reduce your carbohydrate intake. And there are some of you whose carbs might be subpar quality-wise. Like if you're getting 200 grams of carbohydrates a day from graham crackers as opposed to 200 carbohydrates a day from blackberries and broccoli, there's a significant quality difference in the nutrient density of one carbohydrate versus another. But that's not what we're talking about today. But you do need to understand that not all carbs are created equal. That comes from the same conversation as not all calories were created equal. 100 calories of Skittles and 100 calories of spinach have very different effects on the body and blood sugar and metabolism and digestive tract and microbiome and all that, right? So not all carbs are created equal. And today I want to talk about a special type of carbohydrate called a resistant starch. Now, when you consume a carbohydrate, so let's say you're chewing on your Skittles, there's a enzyme in your saliva. There's a few actually, but the primary one is amylase that breaks down, it starts to break down the sugars so that when you swallow it, your body starts to absorb the sugar from what you're eating through the lining of the stomach into the bloodstream. It's a relatively fast process. Simple carbohydrates can hit the bloodstream within 10 to 15 minutes of consuming the simple carbohydrate. So like a sugary cereal or Skittles or muffins or whatever. Those are great examples of simple carbohydrates. Those can hit the bloodstream really fast. Resistant starches are a special type of carbohydrate that is so long chain that it actually bypasses the stomach altogether. So you start chewing on it, right? And it starts to break down the carbohydrate. But the way the body works, the way digestion works, is the longer the carbohydrate chain, the longer it is. The longer it's put together. Like table sugar, sucrose, is glucose and fructose put together. It's just two pieces. So all your digestive tract has to do is split it in half. Boom. You have, two fructose and glucose that can go right to your bloodstream and actually be used for energy. Okay. So the shorter the carbohydrate chain, the faster it breaks down. The longer the carbohydrate chain, oatmeal would be a good example. The longer the carbohydrate chain, that's a very, very complex, what we call complex carbohydrate, very, very long chain of molecules together. Your digestive tract has to break off the ends. It's like chop. There's two pieces. Chop. Here's two more pieces. Chop. It's a long process. Takes forever to break down very complex carbohydrates. Well, resistant starches are a special type of carbohydrate that are so long chain and so resilient to digestion that they actually make it all the way through the digestive tract until the large intestine. Very few carbs do that. So like if you're eating oatmeal, if you're eating broccoli, you're eating blackberries, none of those are resistant starches, hence the resistant. That's why it's called resistant. Resistant means resistant to digestion, right? Carbohydrates that generally reach the digestive tract, the colon specifically, the large intestine, we often call those fibers. There's insoluble fiber and soluble fiber, which is its own can of worms. But basically, fiber can't be broken down by the body. Fiber isn't used for energy. So there are the carbs that break down before they hit your digestive tract. They break down in your mouth and are absorbed in the stomach. Then there are the carbs that are complex, that are broken down throughout your digestive tract. And then there are the carbs that are fibers, and you can't really break them down. And so they go all the way through the digestive tract. They help motility, they keep things moving and regular, right? So those are three different classifications of carbohydrates. And then there's the special, the resistant starch. The resistant starch can be broken down as fuel, but it resists digestion all the way through the digestive tract until the large intestine. Now, why are we talking about this at all, Alex? Like, got me thinking about poop way too much. That's what I hear you thinking. Or at least maybe that's where my mind went. But resistant starches are special because there's something special in your large intestine that needs to be fed. And that is a very significant part of your microbiome. There are very special bacterial colonies within your large intestine that if you feed them well, they can actually be really helpful. They can be symbiotic. They can be beneficial to the lining of your large intestine. And so there's bacterial colonies that can take the resistant starch that you feed them all the way down the tract, and they can use it for energy, and they can generate something called L-butyrate, which is a short-chain fatty acid. This short-chain fatty acid can feed the digestive wall, the large intestinal wall, can feed the large intestinal wall and help it recover. There are a lot of people who have very poorly recovered large intestines. They're damaged and ulcerated and inflamed and angry and upset. And all of those things, they're like, oh, okay, well, I have some stomach pain sometimes and, things come out a little faster than they should. That's not the only problem. The other thing is the vast majority of our immune system responds to our large intestine. So if our large intestine is in poor health, it's poorly recovered, it's poorly fed, it doesn't get an opportunity to rest, it's always inflamed, then that actually affects our body on a global scale because our immune response is often mediated by our large intestine. So things like arthritis, things like chronic fatigue, things like your sleep cycles, things like headaches and just bloating and swelling, There's a lot of things that are mediated by the relationship between our immune system and our large intestine. And so these resistant starches are a very, very powerful way to feed the digestive tract and to help the large intestine recover well. So, that said, these are really interesting and kind of weird, so hang with me. But there are very specific sources of resistant starch if you're looking for them in your diet. One specific source of resistant starch is green bananas. I know, some of you are like, oh, green bananas, they taste like grass. I like yellow bananas, they taste sweeter. Do you know why they taste sweeter? Because while they ripen, the resistant starch of the green banana breaks down into the smaller subcomponents, the smaller carbohydrates that taste sweet and break down before they get to the large intestine. So green bananas are actually a powerful source of resistant starches. If you're like, hey, I'm going to feed my digestive tract a little bit, and my gut hasn't been quite right, I've been feeling under the weather a lot, my joints are really painful and stuff, maybe I can do something to support my gut and my immune system. Green bananas are a great source of resistant starch. Another source of resistant starch actually comes from cooking something, and it breaks down the starches and then refrigerating it, so that the starches have an opportunity to reconstitute into something that's resistant to digestion. And so I really like cold potatoes. Like, what? How weird. But no, really, hear me out. This is pretty cool. You take your potato, chop it in half, throw a bunch of them in the oven, a little bit of butter, make them taste good, put some seasoning on it. It's awesome. And then throw them in the refrigerator and, let them get cold. They'll keep for a few days, and you can eat on them over that period of days, maybe pre-workout, post-workout, whenever you're going to need some carbohydrates. And they don't taste bad. They're actually really good. It's a little weird to eat cold potatoes, but cold cooked potatoes are a good resistant starch source too. And you can do the same thing with rice, like long grain brown rice. You can cook it and then refrigerate it, and you'll end up with a resistant starch. Now, I know this sounds crazy and weird, but this is something that cyclists know about. This is something that in the Tour de France community and whatnot, they do resistant starches all the time. Why? Well, they need a way to pack more carbohydrates into their digestive tract that's going to feed their bloodstream while they cycle. And every calorie that you require your digestive tract to spend in order to digest food while you're racing is a calorie you can't be using in your quads to pedal. And I know that sounds crazy, but they're trying to conserve those things. And they've been doing this for a long time. Resistant starches have been a part of the performance community for a long time, but very few people in the general population know about them. So I'm not a cold potatoes rep. I don't get a nickel every time you eat cold potatoes. But what I'm telling you is that carbohydrates are a little more complicated than most people think. Simple carbohydrates can be a powerful part of your workout process and your recovery, but they can also be hard on you if they're creating cravings and making it easier for you to hold on to fat. Complex carbohydrates can be a really good way to spur endurance and to lower your blood sugar while still feeding that quick short-term fuel source that you need. Fiber is a powerful and important part of your digestive tract. Some of us do well with a lot of it, some of us need a little less, but resistant starches, something that doesn't get a lot of airtime. I'd love to hear from you. Have you had resistant starches before? What's been your experience? For me, they're a really important part of getting over an ulcerative colitis flare-up, and I regularly visit them again to help to reset my digestive tract. And things get better on the inside, and it's hard to argue with the results. Guys, this has been Alex Van Houten in Better Daily Live. Thank you for joining me for Nutrition Tip Tuesday. Tomorrow is Wednesday. I'm so excited to share with you a story from somebody in our community who's found a huge win in the Faithful 40 Challenge. Until then, it's just 1%. You got this.
Thank you for joining us for 1% Better today. Don't forget to subscribe for the podcast. Leave us a raving review to tell others how Better Daily has helped you in your journey. If you want more Better Daily, download our app and join our Betterment family at betterdaily.live. Use code POD to get 25% off your subscription. That's POD, all caps, to save 25% on your subscription. We all have a cross to carry. It's lighter when we do it together. Go to betterdaily.live today.